Hey now, Blue Jay fans and baseball fans who are willing to put up with my shenanigans. I am your host, the man who puts the Fek in Fekless, the Feckless Wonder, Steve Fek. Thank you for choosing to enjoy the views from the On Fek Circle, presented Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Eastern Time during the live stream on YouTube and our various social media outlets. It's presented by Jays from the Couch and by the JFtC versus ALS campaign. May is ALS Awareness Month, so we're running out of days to try to keep this topic of ALS and ALS research and ALS patients out there in the main thing. Media is a fickle thing. People get distracted by all the new shiny new things that might pop up. So let's take advantage of these last couple of days for ALS Awareness Month. Plus, on Friday, June 2nd, it is Lou Gehrig Day across Major League Baseball. So you'll also hear a lot more about Major League Baseball efforts and individuals with ties to baseball that talk about this just insidious disease. It's also time for you to think about how your tax-deductible donation, in any amount, no amount is too small, and certainly no amount is too large, how those donations can help ALS Canada assist patients and their families live with a diagnosis that is life-changing, absolutely, and, at least for now, fatal. But Jason the Couch does not wait until ALS Awareness Month or Lou Gehrig Day to help ALS Canada help fight against this devastating disease. We have the JFtC versus ALS campaign. It was developed by our founder and senior editor, Shaun Doyle. I've been just thrilled to be involved with Jason McCouch's efforts, in this fight. We've both had family members afflicted with ALS. We've seen the damage, both physically and emotionally, that ALS can heap upon there. So let's get those fingers moving. ALS patients can't do this for themselves, certainly not in the later stages. So it's really up to us to kind of get our fingers moving and get those donations coming in. So type into your browser support.alsevents.ca /Jays from the Couch. That's support.alsevents.ca /Jays from the Couch, and make your secure tax-deductible donation to the JFtC versus ALS campaign in any amount that you're comfortable with. You can also visit the Jays from the Couch Redbubble shop to pick up some terrific merchandise. And in fact, over the next couple of days, they're offering 20% off the actual price that you will pay for the merchandise that you see. And you can get shirts, hats, clocks, mugs, all sorts of great merchandise. 100% of the profits from every sale go directly to ALS Canada through the JFtC versus ALS campaign. So I'm almost getting choked up here because honestly, it's hard to describe what even $1 or $5 or $10 can help happen. It can help with research projects. It can help with medications. That's your Sports Cinema. You're doing great work, Steve. Why, thank you very much. It's not me. Okay, it's coming through me. And me being the fatter guy, it's a bigger avenue to travel. So that's great that it comes through here. But honestly, it's something that the families and the patients just need a little bit of help sometimes. Maybe it's a ride to a doctor's appointment. Maybe it's a wheelchair. Maybe it's helping them get a customized van that can accommodate a wheelchair, ramps in the home, medical research. All of this happens through every dollar you can donate. So let's start. You don't need to look at me. You can type on your browser, get this going, support.alsevents.ca /Jays from the Couch, and let's try to wipe out. Let's retire ALS once and for all. And your donation is going to help that happen. Before we discuss the main topics this evening, Allow me to throw out a ceremonial first pitch. You can join the conversations with Jays from the Couch during every Blue Jays game live by joining our Blue Jays Talk for All Facebook group. It's free, doesn't cost you anything. Between games, you can leave your comments or post your own Blue Jays and MLB discussion points. Today, I popped up since I saw Luke Voigt was DFA'd. I'm like, well, should the Blue Jays take a fly or should they try to catch lightning in the bottle? And I was very happy to see everybody just totally dismiss and jump all over that idea. But that's the whole thing. It's fun. It's safe. It's nobody really getting after everybody. When I post things, everybody, Jason from the Couch and everybody in the group already know I'm a dope. So so I expect that kind of thing coming back and forth. But we really do hope that you'll consider doing that. The in-game discussions have been terrific. We get into some really more technical details. We talk about how we're feeling, whether it's a winning streak, a losing streak, the continued problems with the Jays getting runners home with runners in scoring position. So by all means, go to Facebook, go to Blue Jays Talk for All, join as a member, and join the conversations. I'm a little nervous about this show going in. I have to admit that I think the idea I came up with, in all humbleness, is pretty brilliant. But I developed it not because I want to show off my baseball knowledge, my baseball experience, both as a coach and a scout, and just as a fan over the course of the years. I'm 62, so I've seen a lot of baseball. Okay, I remember when there were no Toronto Blue Jays. Okay, so I go way, way back. But I wanted to do it. I still wanted to keep the Fekless Wonder approach to it. I don't want it to be all soft and warm and fuzzy. That's why we have Sunny Side of the Dome and Karen Suter. Karen Suter does a great job presenting the fans' perspectives and how fans feel. You don't need that from me. You don't expect that from me, and I'm not very good at it. So I want to keep that feckless aspect, but I really, really do see the dogs are already barking, barking at the door before I even launch this discussion. But we all want to somehow feel better about what has happened so far during the first 50 games of the Blue Jays season. Those magical 50 games that Mark Shapiro always talks about, saying, well, we really don't know what we have until we've played 50 games. Well, you know what, Mark, Los Atkins, Toronto front office, we know what we have. Okay, so I want you to feel better about it. And those that are regular viewers and regular listeners to the podcast, and you can listen to this as a podcast and all the Jays from the Couch family stuff anywhere you find your finer podcasts. Subliminal plug. Please note how I kind of slid that in there. But anyway, I think it's really important to keep perspective when a team like this 2023 Toronto Blue Jays team is not performing up to expectations. It's not their fault that we have these expectations, per se. You can kind of blame, the media. You can kind of blame the front office, saying, "Oh, we finally turned the corner and we're ready to go to the World Series." But most of the blame for me comes from the rise in the application of analytics. I think it's a scourge on the good name of baseball. But and back in the early days when Bill James was first kind of pioneering this, and guys like Clay Dreslow and other folks were kind of throwing different things out there, analytics used really basic real game concepts. The analytic that the research staff and faculty at FECU, the people that bring you FECU projections every spring training to kind of give you an idea of where we think the Blue Jays might match up, that same group was given the task to develop an analytic based on team performance, actual performance. So even though this might be outside the box score segment, we're talking about actual team performance, but also to help us measure it against our own personal expectations. It's almost like a personalized analytic. And we're calling it WAF, which stands for Wins Above Feckless. It's not complicated. You don't need a slide rule. You don't need a calculator. You need to just find your honesty, sit down with a piece of paper, sit down, look at the Blue Jays roster, and on a scale from 0 to either +4 or -4, so there's 9 rating points, 9 innings in a game, so 9 different ways you can rate your team. And of course, you have a +1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 bases, so in essence, how far are they advancing? Or -1, 2, 3, 4. So there's a lot of baseball tied in here. We actually try to make it practical for the average fan and the diehard fan. But Wins Above Feckless basically tells us, okay, how are these players performing as it compares to our expectations? And you see, we changed it to Wins Above Feckless. If we kept it as Wins Above Feck, people might slip up, use the wrong vowel. So Wins Above Feckless is where we're going to try to go with this. So why should you use this? Well, first of all, you're going to be able to look at real box scores and real reports. You can go to the MLB.com or Baseball Reference or wherever you want to look for your statistics, actually see what happened in the game. And look at what the compiled stats are for any point of the season, whether it's beginning, first game, last game, All-Star break, Memorial Day weekend here in the States, the magical 50-day cup, wherever it is, you can use Wins Above Feckless to determine where the team you are rooting for is. Now, in this case, we're talking about the Toronto Blue Jays. But the beauty about this is it could be any team. So a fan of any team can use the Wins Above Feckless analysis to kind of justify or give you a better grasp of where your teams are at. And it doesn't need to be WAF. I'm not like Fans Gramps or some of these other people that have to claim things as being proprietary and this is us or whatever it is. It could be Wins Above Doyle for our senior editor, Shaun Doyle, when he sits down and does it. It could be Wins Above Karen, rather, for Sunny Side of the Dome. It could be Wins Above whatever. The other thing is, it will not work if you're Ross Atkins. It won't work. Now we need Win WAF. There you go. Drixley, thanks for tuning in. You're a very loyal listener on the various platforms that I do things. Thanks for checking these things out here. But it could be Wins Above whatever. This is a personal analytic based on actual performance. That's the beauty of it. And tip of the hat to my research staff at FECU for coming up with this idea. It's not, okay, is my tongue in my cheek? It is, okay, because I want to have a feckless approach to this. I don't want to make this all, oh, the sky dome is falling. Oh, this is terrible. Oh, this is great. Oh, my God. The up and down, up and down. This is an exercise that either while we're talking here on the air, as I break down some things that I did, or whether you do it later in the week or later tonight, or at some point later in the season, at the All-Star break, at the trade deadline, should the Jays be buyers, sellers, who should they do? You can use this at any point during the season as a way to not only gain perspective. If you're that sky dome is falling person, are things really that bad? I would say that WAF, Wins Above Feckless, will tell you maybe not really as bad as it seems. We're obsessing too much on the results of one game or 1 week. We're not looking at the grander scheme. This isn't football. You only play X number of games. Or even like Premier League soccer or MLS soccer, it's a relatively condensed schedule, so you can't get too far behind. You can't have too many, losses in a row or failures, to secure a win or gain points. That's a different sport. Baseball is very unique that way. Hockey and basketball along similar lines. So really, you can even take this WAF and use it for any sport, really. Because ultimately, at the beginning of the year, we have expectations. Picture yourself in one of the opening scenes for the great major league movies. And you got those guys at the diner, looking at the paper. These guys aren't half bad. Or, well, you know what, this and that. Or, wow, in essence, every baseball fan does it, whether they do it just with their family or with people that they're sitting around at the games, or whether they're sitting down with their fantasy league. They all do this. They're sitting down. What do I expect this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy to do? And when you put all that together, what does that mean your team could be doing? So let's take a look real quick at wins above Fekless for the 23 Toronto Blue Jays so far. Now, I didn't use every player. I basically took the regular starting lineup. I took one bench player, left-handed hitting, right-handed hitting. For the batting statistics on the pitching, I used their rotation and basically the 5 or 6 primary. Actually, I think I went 7 primary bullpen arms. Come up with a preliminary wins above Fekless. This is an exercise we can do together here, or whenever you are catching this, whether you're listening to it as a podcast later or you're here watching live. We can all do this, and maybe we can feel better about ourselves when we use the WAF principle. And you don't have to call it WAF. You can call it whatever your name is. It can be wins above whatever. Again, the only people that really can't use it are Loss Atkins, because there's no wins above anything that Loss Atkins comes up with. So this won't work for him. It won't work for other stubborn baseball managers, baseball front office personnel, old-time scouts that refuse to look at the more modern efforts to analyze players. That really won't work with them. But for the majority of us, WAF, wins above Fekless, can work. So let's just go through the lineup real quick. At catcher, again, the rating scale is 0 would be the mean, pretty much right where you thought that player would be. Then you've got +1, 2, 3, and 4, and -1, 2, 3, and 4. So, and you got to leave your heart out of this. You've got to be honest with yourself. Yes, is there going to be some personal slants to this? Yeah, there probably is going to be. But just be honest. And then at the end of the day, maybe what this wins above Fekless analysis will say you are right. That the Blue Jays are as bad as you think. But you got to be honest. You can't have personal feelings and personal issues with the individual player, because this is based on actual results watching the game, not results that are happening through a formula after the fact, where this player went 0 for 4, but if he was batting at Wrigley Field on this day, then you have to adjust it and you have to weight it and you have to come up with an expected type of thing. No, this is actual results. So even though we're thinking outside the box score, which we like to do here on the On Fek Circle, we are actually basing it on what's really happening. So the catchers kind of offset themselves. I think Danny Jansen, I had him at a +1 WAF. It's unfortunately he's hurt now. You look at his average, you're like, I don't know. But, he's, 6 homers in 131 plate appearances. And it seems that he delivers a big hit whenever he's placed in that situation. Majority of the time, he's coming through. Alejandro Kirk, I gave him a -1 because he shouldn't be hitting 246. And his 325 slugging, you can't have that. especially if the guy with that kind of talent, you just can't have that. So he gets a -1. Plus, I almost went -2, but I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt with his problems behind the plate. I think he still needs to, and it surprises me. So I almost went -2 for Kirk because I mean he caught major league pitchers when he was 17, 18 in the Mexican Winter League. So it's not like he didn't have experience before, but I think with Kirk's defensive issues and the fact that he's just not hitting at the level that he should, he gets a -1. Now, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., that this is a tough one because he's Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Of course, you expect him to do superhuman things and extraordinary things. So this is a little harder. You can't be too hard on guys like Vladdy and Bo Bichette. We'll talk about them later. George Springer, and some of the pitchers. You can't be that hard because really they've just shown they're capable of so much. Now, I gave him a +1. He is hitting, 284. His OPS is 463. That's not bad. It's okay. His power numbers at home, I can't understand. We talked about that a little bit last week's On Fek Circle. I don't understand that. That's what kind of knocked off his offensive. But his defense just keeps getting better. So because expectations are just ridiculous already from Vladdy, a +1, I think it's fair, and I think it shows you what's up. Whit Merrifield, I gave him a +2. Because, okay, he's hitting, right around his career average, but he has 14 stolen bases, and he is a catalyst in that lineup. He helps with his base running, with his approach, the at-bats, his intelligent at-bats that he takes. He just makes things happen in that lineup. He's the guy that's generally left stranded out there when the Blue Jays are hitting with runners in scoring position. So I gave him a +2. I did the same thing for Bo Bichette. And really, because expectations for him are so high, I think he could have gotten a +3 or a +4. I mean, Bo Bichette's having a career year. Where he kind of lost that a little bit was, of course, his defensive lapses, and it's mental. It's his focus. It's a defensive focus. It's not his ability. Excuse me, I'm getting all choked up here. Well, but he also only has 2 stolen bases, which I don't understand. But so that's where he only got a +2. But Bo Bichette's having a special year. I hope you all are really enjoying it, not focusing too much on some of his defensive lapses. Another +2, third baseman Matt Chapman. I love me some Matt Chapman. I think he's the best third baseman in the American League by far. He's been great defensively. His offensive start saved this Blue Jay season. If he didn't start the way he did, the Blue Jays would already be buried, and they would, almost like the Cardinals, and would never be getting out of it. Varsho Abbott -1. His defensive contributions kept it at -1. A lot of you were probably outraged. What do you mean? He's only hitting 118 at home. That's unbelievable. But he's been playing a great defensive left field, great defensive center field. I just don't know. It's just taking him a little bit longer, and he always starts slow to get around there. Kevin Kiermaier probably has the biggest plus rating, and it's +3. Nobody thought Kevin Kiermaier would be hitting at the level that he is. We know what a great defensive player he is. But, he's been unbelievable. And he helps keep that lineup running. And that's coming out of the 9 hole. He's hitting 319, 366 on base, 571 OPS. That's unbelievable. I'm sorry, slugging, not OPS. Springer, he's the mean. I gave him a 0. Is he having the best year? No. This is about what you expect from George Springer to contribute both offensively and defensively. Brandon Belt, I gave a 0, which many people will be surprised at because I'm always smashing him. I gave him a 0 because I didn't expect anything from him. I still get physically ill every time I see him trot out there to first base or see him in the lineup. It reminds me of a story, back in the 80s. We would go to a lot of Pirate games, and there were some pretty dark times there. You could sit anywhere you wanted to. And there was an old guy. And every time that Jason Thompson came up to bat with runners on base and 2 outs, didn't matter what inning, what time of the year, he would just write in his book, close it up. And almost every time he got it right, it was either took a strike 3 looking or bounced into a double play. It was unbelievable. The guy would that's Brendan Belt for me. The bench, Biggio, -2. It's heartbreaking. And I think it's time to give him an opportunity to try to salvage his career somewhere else. I hate to say that, but I think it's time. And Santiago Espinal, I gave -1. He has really performed poorly. Over on the pitching side, the rotation, 3 of the 5 guys I gave a 0, gave them the mean because they have performed at the level that I thought that they would. Kevin Gausman, again, it's another situation like with Bichette and Vladdy. They're so high, the expectations, it's hard to get a +1 or +2. He's at a mean. I gave Chris Bassett a mean, a 0. Perhaps that's underselling what he's doing. I don't see, he's given up 11 home runs already. So that's what kind of brings him to the mean. And Yusei Kikuchi, he's doing about what you would expect from Yusei Kikuchi. He's got things figured out. This is what Yusei Kikuchi is. Jose Barrios got a +1. He's really turned his season around. He had a tough start, so turned his season around. My guy Alek Manoah, I gave him -2, and you could probably say it's -3, maybe even a -4 on that scale, on the WAF scale. I think we're all guilty of expecting too much, and I am the guiltiest party from Manoah so early in his career. I've seen him pitch since he came to West Virginia University as a freshman. This is the freshman Alek Manoah that I remember, that there were so many glimpses of greatness, but then he just, he's out of whack. I think it's more mechanical. It's not his arm. His velocity is down, not because of an arm injury. His velocity is down because when he is coming up into his windup, ideally you want your shoulder to be pointing at the batter. But because, being a bigger guy, it's tougher to keep that balance and keep that thing. His front shoulder is flying open. So in essence, Manoah now has to almost sling the ball rather than being in sync. And and as he comes through, basically as he's stepping forward and pushing off his back leg, he doesn't have that bounce. When he's pushing off, he's already losing balance. It's opening him up. He's opening up his left shoulder, which is facing the batter, and that's forcing him to sling. That's where a lot of the command issues are happening. Perhaps a minor league trip just to help him work things out could happen. In the bullpen, a lot of mean things. Jordan Romano, he's what Jordan Romano is. I don't think he's done anything to stand out above what we expect from him. He has 12 saves, 1.19 whip. His strikeouts per innings pitch numbers are good. But that's what we expect from Jordan Romano. Eric Swanson, too. I almost gave him a negative because I had so high expectations for him. It just didn't seem to work the way that I anticipated. So I kept him at the mean. I think it's all there. If you look at some of his underlying numbers, he has a whip, 1.026. His ERA is a little high, but what's up there? Jimmy Garcia had the lowest rating. He's -3. Now, I remember Garcia pitching for the Marlins, and when he was a closer for a while for them, and when pitching in leverage situations, he was wildly inconsistent, not like what we've seen this year. It's not mechanical. It's just he's just not executing his pitches. People were in the organization, counting on Jimmy Garcia being a key leverage reliever. He's a mop-up reliever at this point. If John Schneider and the Blue Jays front office is smart. He's a garbage time reliever at this point until he gets things figured out. Trevor Richards, and I remember watching him pitch, in independent ball before he made his way, to the Marlins and getting into the major leagues. He's back to that pitcher. He's a lot more competent. I think he has been the most pleasant surprise of any of the bullpen arms. So I gave him a +1. I don't think anybody got him to pitch this well. Tim Mesa, I gave a +1. You could argue that he's just being what Tim Mesa is, but the fact that the way they use him, the amount of innings that he pitches, it's incredible that Tim Mesa continues to be so effective. He's one of those pitchers that actually may have benefited from having a serious arm injury. I think that's helped him with his delivery and coming with a reliever delivery that not only keeps easing on his arm, that he can repeat regularly. So I gave him a +1. So he is a +1 WAF. Adam Simber, he's a mean guy. He's about what I expect. He's been hurt. I think that the rhomboid muscle injury that he had for a sidearm pitcher that connects really basically, in the upper back up to the shoulder blade. If you're a sidearm pitcher, those are the muscles that you really need to have healthy. I suspect this has been a problem that was lingering before he hit the IL. So I gave him the benefit of the doubt. And Nate Pearson, expectations have been so high for so long. I think he's a +1 wins above Fekless. I kept hoping he would be this good. And I think he's only going to get better. If you would do this exercise, I think at the All-Star break, he might be a +2, +3. So again, I invite you. It's a new metric. There's no royalties involved with this. You don't need to credit me if you do, a report or a post on social media. But I hope you do this exercise of wins above Fekless for the Blue Jays or whatever team you may be a fan of that you're watching. Before you hit the send button on your social media post, before you say something you're going to regret later, and all your friends will say you're an idiot when you're at the bar, do this exercise to determine wins above Fekless. And see, based on your expectations, is the actual performance better or worse than what you expected? On Fek Circle +2. Thank you, Drixley. It's like I said, I was a little nervous about doing this show tonight. I think it has been one of my better ones. I didn't go up in any tangents. I ran a little bit overtime, so I apologize to our producer, Shaun Doyle, and founder for that. But I think it's a fun exercise for us. We need to find a way to regain our perspective. The Sky Dome isn't falling. The Blue Jays are not a World Series team, and they weren't going into the season. Regular analytics and all of these things and all the media, trendy picks and flashy, recommendations that clouded our vision. Wins above Fekless is going to help you regain your perspective and help you feel better about the 2023 Toronto Blue Jays team. Let me remind you, the Jason on the Couch radio podcast, we've been on hiatus for a little while. We'll be coming back real soon. That's usually Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern time. And on Thursday, this week, I think the day may change, but usually Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern time, it's Karen Suter's Sunny Side of the Dome. Put on your Blue Jays colored glasses. It's a great show for a Blue Jays fan to help. I think Karen does a great job. I should have called this Wins Above Karen, actually, because she does a great job about making you feel better about your Toronto Blue Jays. I'm the Fekless Wonder, Steve Fek. I'll be back next Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern time with more foolishness. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget, you can also download this as a podcast anywhere Find a Podcaster Found. You can also see the archives at the Jason on the Couch YouTube channel. Talk to you next week.